Peace. Brought to you by Iron Phenomenal Unlimited. This is the Speak Your Mind podcast, hosted by the Queen, Shanice Gatewood Ali, and the God, I Be. Speak Your Mind, an open line podcast delves into the week's current events, trending topics, and the social issues that affect Black people in America. Peace. We in the building. It's your Speak Your Mind podcast with the Ali's. I'm the God I Be, and you see the beautiful Queen, Shanice Gatewood Ali. We in the building. Today's mathematics is knowledge equality, or be born of God. Knowledge is the accumulation of facts and information. Equality is to share those information with others so you can bring them up to speed. And God is that man that you see in front of you. Peace. So peace. How you see today? What's good? What's good with you? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm a little tired because I'm in school now.
Okay. MBA in the house. MBA is in the house. So
Yes.
going back to school to get this MBA situation. How's your first week?
Wow. So, I woke up like 4 something in the morning thinking I have to respond to some of my classmates, and the professor emailed me and said, "Hey, thank you for the response, and I love the communication back and forth, but you don't have to do that." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I'm just super nervous. I just want to make sure I pass these classes. I'm doing 3 right now. One of my class is accounting, which is over 1,000 pages in my book.
Mm.
Also,
Mm.
what else? My entrepreneur class is talking about ethics, and my other class is on straight business, if I'm not mistaken. And we're just talking about the breakdown of what is business, ethics, and so on and so on. So it's pretty helpful. So get my master's in business so I can be able to run businesses the right way, and, including my nonprofit organization. And I am phenomenal.
Right. So we definitely got to get that knowledge so that we
Hmm.
them and then we can have that understanding. So it's definitely important to go and get that knowledge, whichever way you got to get it. Whether you got to go and get the books and be an autodidactic. Autodidactic
Hmm.
just basically means that you self-taught. But I think it's more important to go to the experts so you
Hmm.
can sit at the foot of the masters and learn the true information, and they can guide you through the process so that you get the
Absolutely.
understanding of it. So I salute you. I definitely salute you on this NBA. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be great
Oof.
for people. You give so much, so it's very important when a person like yourself gets that information, because you touch so many people when you speak out in the community. So this is definitely gonna be an add-on.
Absolutely. As well as yourself. You do great work. Also a master graduate. I would love for you. You know what? You need to talk about yourself, babe. Come
What do you mean?
on. Give me some information about you. What did you go to school for?
Okay, so last year I completed my master's in health education and promotion. This year I finally solidified it by getting my certified health education specialist by passing the exam, and now I'm a certified nationwide as a health education specialist. So that means that basically I have competencies in teaching people about health, in developing programs, and basically evaluating those programs, implementing those programs, and advocating about health on multiple forums, whether it be to legislators or to the public in general, or just in general advocating about health policy, health practices, and ways that we can better our health as a people. I felt that it was
Hmm.
very important for me to get involved in health, because in my bachelor's degree, which was in public health and psychological well-being, we learned about the different disparities that are in our community. But I didn't want to take the generic route and just be involved in public health on that level in the background. I wanted to actually be a health educator, because in my culture it's very important to go out there and teach people.
Hmm.
So I wanted to learn the different ways where I could go out and teach people about health, because we suffer from these health disparities. My father is what really drove me, with him having diabetes and hypertension and then eventually succumbing to COVID-19. So
Right.
that always drove me. I wanted to go out there and to teach people about the different health conditions in our community and how we can better ourselves as a people so that the next generation are more health conscious.
Absolutely. And you do a lot of PowerPoints and conversations and discussions on Zoom.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that as well. You
Okay. So
just did one last week.
yeah, that conversation was basically called "COVID is not the issue." It's
Mm-hmm.
dealing with the fact that we have so many health disparities within our community because of the institutional practice of discrimination for people of our color and other
Mm-hmm.
people of color as well. So black people and Spanish people have the highest levels of health disparities like hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer. We have high levels of these disparities. So when it comes
Mm-hmm.
time for something like COVID-19 to come around, we have a higher level of getting infected by it because our immune systems are already compromised.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not because we are inherently more susceptible to disease. It's because of the conditions we live in that make us more susceptible to catching a virus like COVID-19. So I
Right.
basically gave that talk and I spoke about the redlining practices and the Jim Crow laws and all of these different things that contribute to our higher susceptibility. But also within that talk, I also noticed that if you look at the distribution, everybody talks about the curve. The curve is basically a distribution of cases. So the higher you get on the curve, that means there's more cases in a single day. And we
Right.
looked at the distribution of cases and we figured out that most black people caught COVID-19 during the beginning, like March and April and June of the last wave. In the current wave, we're not seeing the higher level of disparity that we seen in the beginning of the pandemic.
Right.
So the question is, why are they pumping us so much with the fear when they know that we should be getting taught more about the health and wellness in general at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We should be taught ways to boost our immune system, ways to live healthy, and all of these other things. But they want to constantly talk about the disparity of last year. Now, I
Right.
think that we have to talk about health and well-being on a consistent basis so that we're healthy. When it comes time to something, we'll be able to survive through it.
Right. So that goes into our topics for this beautiful Sunday afternoon.
Right. Right. So, we do current events every week. And the first current event is something that is a major topic currently when it comes to what's going on in our nation, possibly what's going on in the world. So we definitely had to touch on this topic briefly. Um, so this right here is basically about the CDC's new guideline that they put forth this week. Basically caught everybody by surprise, and I don't think people really know exactly what to do at this point. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety about going back to work, but this is the new guideline, and this is from the Hill, and this is written by Olaf Mihan Oshin. What a name! But anyway,
Wow.
this is the Hill and this is called CDC Director Defends New Mask Guidance, saying science has evolved, right?
Mm.
So, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Rochelle Walensky defended the new mask guidance by the agency on Sunday, citing the evolution in science. During an appearance on ABC's This Week, Walensky told Martha Raddatz that as recently as 2 weeks ago, vaccines have proved to be effective enough to not require those who are fully vaccinated to have to wear face coverings. During appearance on we now have science that has really just evolved even in the last 2 weeks that demonstrates that these vaccines are safe, they are effective. Walensky told Raddatz they are working in the population just as they did in the clinical trials, and they are working against our variants that we have here circulating in the United States. Walensky also told Raddatz that with the latest guidelines, unvaccinated people should still follow mask guidance and that the new recommendation did not mean that there should be widespread removal of masks. Walensky added that it might take some time for people to adjust to the new guidelines and that decisions on mask wearing will be made on a local level. Okay, so this is basically it. Basically, what the CDC said is that fully vaccinated people do not have to wear masks anymore in public, in the streets, or inside buildings. However,
Wow.
they do still have to wear masks in mass transit, as far as like in trains or in planes, or I guess in buses as well. So these are the new guidelines, and people are, like really unsure. Like, yo, what should we do? Because recently you told us that we shouldn't wear the mask, then we should wear the mask, and now we don't have to wear the mask again. So this is really mainly for people that are vaccinated. So what's your thoughts?
Wow. So with that, that's like a double standard and that's shaming, right? So we talk about body shaming with our children, right? That's what you call bullying. So you're telling me if I decide to wear a mask inside, outside, wherever, if I'm walking, that means I'm not, in your eyes, that means I'm not vaccinated. Well, the V word, right? Because we don't want them to flag us. So
Right.
that means I'm not.
I haven't taken the experimental package.
Okay.
Yes.
And the people who not wearing the mask, that means they haven't been experimented. Right? So it's like a double standard. It's like, oh, she got on the mask. That means she haven't been. But you don't even know. That's my own personal decision. If I want to wear my mask or if I don't want to wear my mask. That's my personal thing. But that's also putting like you're going to be bullied to do it
Right.
through the higher ups, because I'm in school, I'm online right now. So that means when September open up, that means people who have been, they could go ahead and go into the school versus people who haven't been, what they're going to do, you
Right.
know? So it's like a double standard, and it hurts because you're forcing me to do something that I don't want to do, or I have an issue on it because I don't know enough information to actually get it done or have these things in my system.
So basically, what they saying, all right, peace to the queen, Jakisha. She's in the chat too. She said peace. She basically
Peace.
said she basically told us that the proper term is experimental package. But what the CDC is saying now is that it's no longer an experiment. They're trying to solidify the science, and the science is saying that this vaccine is effective and that it's not going to, that if you take the vaccine, you're not going to end up in the hospital, right? You're not going to have a bad outcome such as death or any of these things that was happening in the beginning of the pandemic if you take this vaccine. So, this increases what they call stigma for people that are still wearing masks if they're still
Hmm.
wearing masks in a public setting and everybody else is not. So now you're
Hmm.
looked at as the other because
Hmm.
you didn't take the vaccine or you're not believing in the science. So
Right.
we're not anti-vaccine. I had to take a vaccine, the MMR vaccine titers and all of that before I went to take my master's degree at Lehman College. I'm not anti-vaccine. We just want to know more information that still seems to be a little sketchy. It
Right.
just still seems to be a little sketchy. We need a little bit more information about how you manufactured it, and different things that it might contain. That go against our cultural practices or may go against our act. Because if you look at me, I have vitiligo. This hasn't been tested on people with autoimmune disorders. What would be the effect on me? My wife has medicine allergies. What would be the effect on her? We need more information so that we can make an informed decision. All right.
Hmm.
So that's the first article, but it leads into the next article. Now, the next article is something that was basically a reaction to what the CDC said, right? Because now people are making decisions according to what the CDC said.
Mm-hmm.
right? So these companies have been uh, making guidelines as far as their companies according to the CDC guideline, and this is evidenced by this article right here, which is in USA Today, and it says
Mm-hmm.
Walmart, Costco, Trader Joe's, Publix no longer require masks for unvaccinated customers.
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks starts Monday, and this is by Kelly Tycho, and it's in USA Today. So it says retailers started announcing changes to face mask policies for fully vaccinated customers a day after Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued the new mask guidelines. Trader Joe's, Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco, and Publix were the first to confirm updates to mask requirements, leading the way for mask-free shopping, except where required by state and local mandate. In some cases, vaccinated store employees can also go to work without a mask. Many retailers, including Apple, Target, CVS, and Walgreens, say they are still evaluating the CDC guidance, but say that they could update policies. Starbucks updates its policy starting Monday and makes masks optional for vaccinated customers beginning Monday, May 17th, unless local regulations require them by law. Um, okay, tax-free deals. Oh no, this is something else. So that's basically it for that article. So what they're basically saying is that these different stores are making the decision that people who are fully vaccinated, they can come into their store and they do not have to follow the mask guideline. However, they still have to go by whatever the state law is. They have to go by whatever the state law is and local laws. And if local laws say that you have to wear the mask, you have to wear the mask. It doesn't matter what the store says. So what's your
Right.
thought on that?
Listen, I think right now they're really pushing people to get back to work, right? So right right about now, they just want people to feel comfortable to come to work. They want people to feel comfortable um, as customers, consumers, to continue to spend their money. So I think that's more like they're pushing people because even where I work, where we work, they are pushing us to get back to work very much soon, right? So instead of the 2 3 days, they want us full term, full a full week. I don't care what nobody say. I'm wearing my mask, and I understand it's their guidelines. It's not going to oversee how I feel comfortable enough for someone to go to get all in my face and want to talk to me. I don't feel comfortable yet. At the end of the day, we still see that some clients where I work is still getting sick. I want to protect myself at any means necessary, and it's my right to do so.
Right. It's definitely a right. And it's crazy that even though we're in a public situation right now, they're forcing people, even though there are HIPAA laws, to stipulate whether they're making a health decision.
Hmm.
That's not right and exact. You're not really
Right.
supposed to be able to know my health information, and it's none of your business whether or not I decide to or decide not.
No. Hmm.
This is my health decision, and I'm
Right.
entitled as a person to make that health decision. Now, the data is back, as the CDC have said, but the data has also revealed who has been mostly affected. And according to the data, it's been mostly people that are 80 and above and people that are immunocompromised. So why are you forcing people who are healthy to do something that they do not want to do? I don't think that that's right and exact. But if you want
Nope.
to take it, it's up to you. It should be
Right.
always up to you what you want to do.
Right. And it should not be pressured. Like for example, we did see on when you did your PowerPoint, a lot of the older people, 65 plus, was more or less passing away, right? But you got to remember also, they're not telling you because we already know in the next 8 to 10 years something else might happen. But we're not. They're not preparing us for this or that one. you know, as in don't eat certain foods. Only us, when I say us, I'm saying our culture are the ones who's actually pumping the extra, which is how to keep yourself safe, eat certain foods, eat your greens, take your vitamins, you know, um, walk, jog, exercise. All these great things is so much is better than, like somebody just said. We was listening to him today. How can I'm not going to teach you how to be financially wealthy. I'm just going to give you this welfare check or this stimulus check and just say, here, take that, and that should help you. No, help me understand how to become financially wealthy. So with that being said, we have to get ourselves in the midst of being around certain people, at the certain tables, certain conversations, certain mindsets. If these are the things that you're um want to know or educate yourself on, YouTube is fine, but actually be in a circle and the Zooms, because there's so many people that's actually talking about the things that we're talking about, because we want to know. you know um a lot of people just sit home and do YouTube all day. I understand that, but actually get into the whole research, as my husband have done so many times. I watched him. He will research all day, all night, and get the information and talk to people, and then get in the circle of certain people having these type of experts that are having these type of conversations, and come back and educate us, those who don't know. And that's a beautiful thing when there's somebody out there that's actually doing it. And the conversation is free conversation. We do this every week, so with that, whoever that want to go out there and do what they got to do what you got to do. But also learn how to boost your immune system. Learn how to do those things. Get into the habit of that. We understand Big Mama house, they used to have macaroni cheese and collard greens and all this. And when I was brought up, Sunday dinners are actually that look like that.
Right.
And that's not healthy. Fried chicken and fried this and fried, that's not healthy. Do a little bacon, less oil. And if you want to use oil, what kind of oil? Olive oil. All these little things can help. Go outside, take a walk, jog, exercise, vitamins, all this stuff really, really helps. I have asthma, and I also, like he said, I have allergies to certain medications. I just can't, I have to protect myself at any means necessary. And that's what it is. I'm not going to just walk up into Walmart because they say I don't have to wear a mask. I'm still going to wear mine. People still sneeze. Last year, there wasn't that many people catching colds. I have walked the street, and he could say it. We walked the streets, and people would just outright sneeze. And I did a whole Zoom on the distance on the
Yeah.
what's that, Polycule, all
Right.
that would just come out and hit you in your face, and you walking around with somebody else's DNA and saliva, all that stuff on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you get sick behind it. You don't know what people have, and we so focused on COVID, this thing here, that we forgetting the other things that can happen. You can walk down the street, get shot and killed, but you got your mask on, you've been vaccinated. It's other factors that can happen that will wind you, have you deceased. So let's be proactive, you know, let's
Right.
be more proactive.
So
Mm.
one thing that you brought up that is very important, the eating practices that we have. Like I always show this video. Well, I used to show the video where they had a cartoon called The Boondocks that used to be out, and they did a critique on the movie Soul Food. In the movie
Right.
Soul Food, for those who saw it, in the movie Soul Food, the movie was about family, really, and it's centered around this major matriarchal figure, the mother of the movie, right? She brought everybody together by cooking food on Sunday afternoon, and the family came, the reverend came, a lot of people came to eat the food. However, this mother figure developed diabetes, and
Mm-hmm.
it started to progress more and more. She had to get either her leg cut off or something she had to get cut off, and she eventually succumbed to diabetes from not
Mm-hmm.
changing her practices, changing her eating, doing whatever it was. So eventually, this mother figure succumbed to diabetes, and the family started to break apart because they wasn't having this congregation at the meals anymore. But what did they do? They started to cook the same food that killed their mother and caused her to have diabetes and hypertension and all of these maladies that are disparities within our community. They cooked that same food and brought the family back together to eat that again and start the cycle all over. That
Wow.
doesn't make sense. It's because of these maladies that we are higher susceptible to these viruses in the first place. So why would we continue the same practices of eating these greasy foods and all of this starch and all of this stuff? How do you have a plate with meat, macaroni and cheese, and salad? That's two starches. Two starches. Dr. Sebi said all we do is eat is blood and starch, and it's
Mm.
evidenced by our food. There's no vegetables, or we boil all of the nutrients out. Like when some people cook their collard greens and their broccolis and all of these, they boil all the nutrients out. We're not getting the health from the food.
Mm-hmm.
Our food is our medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So just to move on, because I could talk about this stuff all day. Just to move there's another article that came out that also speaks to this same topic, and I mean, it's just very confusing what's going on right now. So, in this article, and this article is in WebMD, it says New York Yankees report 8 breakthrough COVID cases, and this is on
Mm-hmm.
March 14th. The New York Yankees have reported 8 vaccine breakthrough cases in which a person tests positive for COVID-19 after being fully vaccinated, including shortstop Gleyber Torres. Torres, 3 coaches, and 4 members of the support staff
Wow.
tested positive. All 8 received the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the team said on its Major League Baseball website. Only one person is showing symptoms, the team said. Torres was held out of the game Wednesday night against the Tampa Bay Rays in St. Petersburg, Florida, because his COVID test results were pending, the Yankees said. He was later confirmed to have tested positive. Torres had COVID in December. The decision to not play him was made on the advice of the Joint COVID-19 Health and Safety Committee, which is composed of the MLB representative, 1 representative from the Players Association, and 2 doctors. The CDC has addressed the occurrence of breakthrough cases. The COVID-19 vaccines are effective, he says. However, a small percentage of people who are fully vaccinated will still get COVID-19 if they are exposed to the virus that causes it. They are called vaccine breakthrough cases. This means that while people who have been vaccinated are much less likely to get sick, it may still happen. There's also is some evidence that vaccination may make illness less severe in people who get vaccinated but still get sick. The third base coach, Phil Nevin, first base coach, Reggie Willits, and pitching coach, Matt Blake, are quarantined in Tampa, Florida, the team said on its official website. The 4 support staff, where did it go? I lost my space. Well, anyway, I'm gonna stop right there because I lost. Oh, the 4 support staff members were not identified. The Yankees are among 5 MLB teams to vaccinate more than 85% of their Tier 1 staff, defined as players and staff having direct contact with its players. Reaching that threshold allows a team to enjoy relaxed safety protocols such as going without masks in the dugout or bullpen, indoor dining, and receiving visitors at a team hotel, the New York Times said. So, let's look at this in a scientific way, right? If we look at this in a scientific way, what it's basically saying is that the people who are fully vaccinated on the Yankees team, they were allowed to loosen the protocols. And in that loosening of protocols, 8 people on the team caught COVID vaccine during the by the test. You have seen that the people had the virus. So if you look at this as a small sample, then we got to take this sample and apply it to a higher amount of people. Meaning, if you look at the nation now, if you look at the articles that we read earlier, as far as Walmart and all of these people that are loosening protocols, and the CDC saying that it's no longer that you have to wear the mask. That means that people on a grander scale, there's going to be some people who are fully vaccinated that are going to still catch the virus. And if you look at the national numbers of vaccination rates, only about 30% of the population has been fully vaccinated. So what does that mean? That means that people who cannot take the vaccine and some people who still haven't taken the vaccine, they are able to catch the virus from people who are fully vaccinated. However, what the CDC says is that people who are fully vaccinated, they have a lower amount of viral load within themselves, so it's less likely that they can pass this virus. But the Yankees show that it is likely that a cluster of people can catch this virus. So, it's just very sketchy, and you'll just see all types of different things going on, and you're just going to have to make your own decision and be safe the best way you can.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that. We just have to be safe for ourselves. Because there were at the beginning, I was doing a couple of Zooms, and there was a couple of people that did get sick. However, they did not die. And I wanted to show that piece because we was constantly hearing death, 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 death. So by me bringing on people who actually caught it and actually survived it by doing X, Y, and Z, as in doing the healthy teas, going to the herbalist and stuff like that, they're here today. So salute to those who did wind up catching it, because remind you, a lot of us was thinking it was probably a cold. I know a lot of us probably did get sick and didn't even know what the heck it was. So I remember, when you got sick, we thought it was that. However, I was treating it like a cold and giving you all the medications that I would have, or we would take if it was just a regular cold. So with that, we just got to be mindful of our health conditions, ourselves, and just lesser up on certain foods. We're not saying don't eat it, but don't eat it every Sunday. Don't eat it every time when there's a holiday. Break it down, have more salads, things of that nature. I'm salad out.
We gotta eat it.
Oh my goodness. Instead of you eating regular lettuce, eat spinach or kale, stuff like that.
Right.
Start doing your own research on which vegetables and fruits you can eat or smoother, put in a smoothie and drinking like that. So we are doing, peanuts. Peanuts are really good too. I'm over here chewing on peanuts right now. Less bread. Sometimes we do slack up a little bit and we do eat some of these things. However, we make sure it's a balance.
Right.
It is a balance.
Balance.
Yeah, turkey tips, fish, even though they say don't eat fish all the time, but fish is good. Sometimes the chicken is not all that good sometimes, but
Down on the fried foods.
yeah.
So on a lighter note, we do have another impact of the pandemic that we want to share, and then we want to get to our guests. So this is the last article. This article right here is in the Associated Press. It's written by Christopher Rugabeer. Desperate for workers, U.S. restaurants and stores raise pay.
Wow.
Right. So yeah, you talking about raising pay. Now we talking. All right. Washington Associated Press. U.S. restaurants and stores are rapidly raising pay in an urgent effort to attract more applicants and keep up with the flood of customers as the pandemic eases.
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's, Sheetz, and Chipotle are some of the latest companies to follow Amazon, Walmart, and Costco in boosting wages, in some cases $15 an hour or higher. The pay gains are, of course, a boon to these employees. Restaurants, bars, hotels, and stores remain the lowest paying industries, and many of their workers ran ran the risk of contracting COVID-19 on the job over the past year, while white collar employees were able to work from home. Still, the pay increase could contribute to higher inflation if companies raise prices to cover the additional labor costs. Some businesses, however, could absorb the cost or invest over time in the automation to offset the higher wages. States and cities are easing business restrictions as COVID-19 deaths and cases plummet, and in places like Florida, Nevada, and Texas, restaurant traffic is above or near pre-pandemic levels, according to Open Table, a software provider to the industry. So basically, a lot of people are not going out to get jobs right now. Like, a lot of people do not feel safe when it comes to going out to work. They still want to, quarantine in place. They don't really feel comfortable in an environment where they got to be close to people. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we're all going to have to work out,
Right.
because things are going to open up whether we like it or not. However, I think that we may need to hold off for a little while so that these wages could be raised. It's
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate that Congress in all of this is still refusing to raise the minimum wage in this country, which in some places is still $7 an hour. You
Isn't
can
that funny?
buy.
But
You can
you legalize weed.
Right. You legalize weed to make revenue. Right. But then probably the people that's selling the weed in the store might be making minimum wage, which is $7 an hour. And these companies are definitely guaranteed to make billions. So they have to raise wages in this country so that people can have a living wage. You had these people that were out here during the height of the pandemic working in stores, Staples and Target and grocery stores and
Walmart.
Bakers and
Mm-hmm.
Walmart, and all of these people who were not even making a living wage. And you
Mm-hmm.
have Congress that's not willing to raise the minimum wage from $7 in this country.
That's ridiculous.
That is super ridiculous. So
Mm-mm.
definitely, man, spur these companies so that they can raise their wages so that people can actually have something to live for.
It's a shame because a lot of these, like Atlantic City, the casinos was just talking about how they pretty much upset that people was at home and they are able to make more money at home. So they want to use all these other techniques to get people back on, or well, back into the building, their businesses, their companies, so they can make money, right? But meanwhile, you're not making sure that we're not safe. So a lot of people just home. I don't want to just say home. I'm not going to say that because some people are home and they're doing certain things for them to better themselves. I'm going to say that. Like, for example, I was home 2 days out of the week. I birthed a book with my sister, you know, a journal workbook. That's that's something great. Other people are birthing their businesses. That's that's beautiful. Some people are actually in school, getting a trade, in the process of them staying home, getting whatever money they're getting, unemployment, whatever. I just hope and pray that that's what a lot of people was doing because now we had a good insight of what's going on. So continue to educate yourself with whatever. If that's something that you want to do it, but educate yourself on how to keep it going. Because a lot of what's that pops?
Hmm?
What is the saying of it? Pops, the moms and pops shops, or
Mom and pop shops, yeah, mom and pop.
right. A lot of moms and pop shops are not around anymore because you have people that's gonna buy them out, or you just gonna go up shit creek because you don't know the process of um, doing your business.
Right.
So it's a lot to it, but we got it. I do believe a lot of us are starting to wake up, but then we go back to sleep.
All right, so that's our current events for the week. I just want to show you a video of an author I met next week. I met yesterday, and then we're gonna
Yes.
get into our guest. So
Hmm.
after this video, we're gonna get into our guest and introduce our guest. She has some great information for you. So just hold on and check this video out, and we'll be right back. Peace. It's the Speak Your Mind podcast with the God I Be. I'm here today with 8-year-old author J. Sean Henry, and this is his first book, and he just came out with. Look at that. 8 years old, he got his first book. Say what's up to the people, J. Sean.
What's up?
What it feel like to be an author at 8 years old? What made you write this book?
About my disorder.
Huh?
About my disorder.
About your disorder?
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about your disorder?
I have neurofibromatosis.
Huh?
I have neurofibromatosis.
Okay.
And this what happens with neurofibromatosis.
This is what happens?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's talking about the disorder that you have, and you wrote the book so that people can have awareness about the disorder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's excellent. So you know you're on a path to greatness, right?
Hmm?
Yeah? What's going to be the second book?
The second book is going to be Everybody in the World is Special.
Huh?
Everybody in the World is Special.
Everybody in the world is special?
Hmm?
You think everybody in the world is special?
Yeah.
They ain't more special than you. You wrote a book already at 8 years old.
Somebody made a book when they're 6 years old.
What? Somebody made a book at 6 years old?
I did.
You did? This book right here? Oh, this book been out for 2 years already. Oh, okay. So you corrected me because you were 6 years old when you had your first book. Wow, man, that's amazing. What grade you in now?
Second.
Second grade? You get good grades in school?
Yep.
That's what's up, man.
First grade, I got 4s and 3s.
You got 4s and 3s in first grade?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got A's and B's.
So what about school? Do you like school better online, or do you like better school in person?
In person.
In person?
Hmm?
So you going back next like in September, or you going in person now?
I'm in person now.
Yeah.
I'm going to 3rd grade the next month.
Mm-hmm. Has the pandemic affected any of your grades or anything like that?
No.
Nah. So when you gonna write this next book?
Next year.
Next year?
Hmm?
Okay. So where can the people get your book at if they want it?
Barnes and Noble.
Barnes and Noble?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they go on barnesandnoble.com and they can find your book.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the book again?
Everybody in the World is Special.
Show the front of it. I am. Yes, I am. You see that? So we got it for you live right here. I am special. Yes, I am. By author J. Sean Henry. Make sure you go out and get that book. All right. Say peace to the people. You got anything else you want to say?
Nope.
All right. Peace to the.
That was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. I was standing there and I was listening. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So Sherry Simmons, which is a member of We Are Phenomenal Women, and she also have her own for profit, which is Pain for Purpose. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I hope I'm not quoting it wrong. However, she do classes on Facebook, well, on Zoom, and she helped people become authors. As myself, I was a part of her class as well, and it was pretty awesome. Yesterday, we had a great. We unfortunately, my husband was hungry, so I had to make him some food before we went, and we was kind of like we was late, but we was able to get in there and talk with him. And my book, it was funny because my book was delivered from him, that same day, which was amazing. Yeah, so it was dope. And also, there's a bookmark on the table, I think.
I don't know where the bookmark is at.
Okay, well, there's a bookmark that came with it. That was so dope. So thank you once again, Sherry and Jay Sean, for allowing us to be a part of that with you guys yesterday.
That's right. Available on Barnes and Noble. I Am Special. Yes, I Am by Jay
Mhm.
Sean Henry and Sherry Simmons, mother and son.
Yep.
Okay, so let's get into our guests. Let's get into our guests. Let's get into our guests. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to you so you can introduce her.
Yes. Miss TJ Vida. Well, her name is Tyra Gibson, and she goes by AKA TJ Vida. She was actually on my podcast, excuse me, on my, well, it's supposed to be Living Behind the Mask Purple Round Table, but since I'm in school on Tuesdays, I'm actually doing some special things on Wednesdays because I'm free that day. So she was actually on, and we did rape prevention, and it was really, really informative. A lot of people, for the first time, spoke out on how something happened to them, and we're doing a whole series for this whole month. And she's actually in school. She's doing great work. She's a singer. She got her own non-for-profit. Let her get into all of that. She's doing a lot of work. And she's actually going to school for her PhD. So bring
Wow.
her on. Yes, bring her
Huh.
on.
Okay, so without further ado, we have Tara Gibson, aka TJ Vida.
Mhm.
Peace.
Hello, hi, how are you?
We good. We good. I would love for you to get into who is Tyra Gibson. Talk to us about who you are.
I'm just a regular person trying to make bad situations, get some kind of control of them by helping other people and spreading awareness.
Absolutely. I see behind you,
I
you have a
Yes,
banner.
that's the banner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anywhere I move my head, you're gonna miss some of it, but that's the
Mm-hmm.
banner. And as you can see, when Caesar Cure was formed, we made our slogan, which is for every letter that is in epilepsy, it says efficacy. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you can see, but E is for educate, P is for persevere, I is for inspire, L is for love, E is for enlighten, P is for prosper, S is for support, and Y is for youth.
Nice. Wow. Wow. Thank you.
So,
And when would Cease for Cure was birthed?
well, interestingly, I had no intention of going this far with it. In 2017, um, me and Row, which is Rejuvenated Observant Wise. We were Diverse Gravity, excuse me, and we did an event that was catered just to talk about epilepsy awareness. It was supposed to
Okay.
be a one-time event. We had no intention of going further with it. Um, Interestingly, at the time, my son was supposed to be there for it. My son has epilepsy,
Mm-hmm.
and he was diagnosed at 7, but about 5 years ago, he started having convulsions.
Mm.
That has not stopped to this day. Up to date, right now, he's had up to close to 500 seizures.
Ooh.
So in 2017, when the convulsions, really started and were intensifying, we said, let's do a music event, but let's cater it to epilepsy awareness. So I have reached out to the director of the Epilepsy Foundation of New York, and he came out, and it was a great event. Not a lot of people came like I had wanted, but it was the first time. You know how it is the first time doing something. You got to kind of
Mm-hmm.
play it out, so to speak. But again, we had no intention of doing it further. So interestingly, my son ended up being admitted into the hospital. He was in for a good month at that time. So he wasn't
Wow.
at the event.
Mm-hmm.
So the director came out, and the event went great, had some guest speakers, had testimonies, had performers. And the director asked me since then, supported me doing more events. About a year ago, I had my first workshop after having about 5 to 6 concerts. I had my first workshop, and the Epilepsy Foundation director came out again. And he actually, that workshop nominated me to represent the Bronx in spreading epilepsy awareness. I had no
Wow.
idea that the Epilepsy Foundation did not cover the Bronx.
Wow.
So that was an honorable feeling, to nominate Caesar Cure to be under their umbrella for representing the Bronx.
Hmm.
So since then, I've expanded in trying to, part of epilepsy awareness and part of Seize the Cure, the mission is incorporating the arts. So
Hmm.
as you stated, I am a singer. I do a lot of work in music, along with the people involved in Seize the Cure as well. So what we decided to do is let's take it to the next step. So
Hmm.
now I'm incorporating programs, which is why we're doing this first fundraiser, where I'm going into the schools, I'm going into other organizations. And it's not just about epilepsy, it's also about seizure safety, because you don't have to have epilepsy to have a seizure.
Absolutely. Wow. So let's get into that because now I have an understanding that you birthed Seize the Cure for epilepsy back in 2017. That's what you said, right? Okay. Okay. So tell us, what is epilepsy? I mean, when I spoke to somebody today, they said they kind of sort of have an idea what it means. So if you could just break that down for us, give our people, the listeners, a better insight of what is epilepsy.
Okay, so epilepsy is a neurological disorder,
Hmm.
and pretty much you're diagnosed based on a test that's called an EEG.
Hmm.
It monitors the brain waves and the brain activity. And that particular test shows if you have epilepsy. You can have seizures and not have epilepsy. Like I said,
Okay.
there are some people that have seizures because it's triggered when they drink, or substance abuse. You have infants or young children who have seizures based on, they're called febrile seizures. They come because of a temperature, a high fever. You have people that have never had seizures, and pregnancy will trigger it. But it
Hmm.
doesn't mean you have epilepsy. Epilepsy is a more long-term condition of it.
Hmm.
And there are 40 different types of seizures.
Wow.
Now, what happens when someone has a seizure, depending on the display of the seizure. And when I say display, meaning the type of seizure is pretty much is what you're seeing, and some
Hmm.
seizures that you don't see.
Hmm.
So, for example, I myself have epilepsy.
Hmm.
I'm nowhere near as bad as my son because my son's convulsions are not controlled, which causes
Right.
injury. But I was the same as my son. We were diagnosed at 7 years old, and we were diagnosed based on symptoms that look very similar to ADHD,
Okay.
and which a lot of children do go misdiagnosed with ADHD, and they're not encouraged to, the parents are not encouraged or informed to have them see a neurologist to make sure it's not something else going on.
Mm.
Um, so the seizures can be absent seizures, and that's pretty much where the person who's having a seizure
Hmm.
that just kind of sparks, and they may lose focus. It may look like daydreaming. They may be talking, and then in the middle of the conversation or the sentence, they just stop
Wow.
for a few seconds to a few minutes and then continue forth like nothing. And then
Mm.
you have convulsions.
Hmm.
With convulsions, it affects the body. With my son, for example, he has convulsions that he'll just drop. He can just be standing there talking to you and he'll just drop, violent shakes, foaming at the mouth, eyes rolling behind the head, has bit his tongue, and he's had a lot of injuries from his convulsions. Normally,
Wow.
his convulsions last from 2.5 to 4 minutes. When a convulsion goes past 5 minutes, it's considered deadly and can cause brain damage. Realistically, depending where you have the seizure and how intense it is,
Hmm.
it's deadly, period.
Right. Right.
Um, so you may have a situation where someone with epilepsy there's one part of the brain that may have the electricity, so to speak. It's like your brain goes on, not fire, I don't want to say fire, but it lights up. Certain parts of the brain light up, and that's how they could determine what the treatment is. If your one part of your brain is lighting up and causing seizures, then they may try to use medication, and if not, surgery is maybe needed, and it's easier because they know which part of the brain they're targeting.
Right.
With my son and with many who have generalized epilepsy, the whole brain lights up. There's no one specific part. So it affects every part of the brain.
Okay.
So there's no cure for epilepsy. The key is management. Trying to get the seizures minimized as much as possible in quantity and severity. So they usually start with medication as a form of treatment. There are so many medications out there that I can't even tell you. To go down the list would be, and I'm not a doctor, so I don't, I can only say what my situation has been and people that I've spoken to with the different medications. Right. Epilepsy medications have a lot of side effects. There are many cases where a person has to be on more than one medication. And it's sad to say, but someone with epilepsy kind of becomes a guinea pig because it's trial and error with these medications and trying to find the best one. And many people still aren't managed, even with the medication. So they have surgery as options. Myself,
you blanked out.
As well as my son had it about 3 years ago, the surgery, and pretty much it's what it is it's a device that it's in his chest and it's connected to his brain, and it comes with a magnet. So that way, if he feels like he's gonna have a seizure, he can swipe it. Pretty much the machine is kind of like medicine, but it sends electrodes to the brain depending on the person. It could be every 2 minutes at a certain strength. And if he feels a seizure coming on, he can swipe the magnet to activate those electrodes. Or if he's having a seizure that is going long or it's too intense, you can swipe the magnet and it's supposed to stop the seizure.
No,
the magnet
I've never heard of that one. Wow.
It's called the vagus nerve stimulator. The problem is, like when you think about the electronics, how your Xbox is constantly remade and upgraded. Cell phones are upgraded. This is exactly the same thing with these machines, but we're dealing with obviously a condition. So the problem with that is, while the machine may work or may help a little bit, your body gets immune to it because it can only go to a certain setting, as high as it can. And then they're constantly remaking new machines for this. They actually wanted him to have another surgery with the more upgraded, quote unquote, VNS. I don't remember the name of it, but I said that's not happening. We're not going to mess around anymore with surgery.
Okay. Wow. First of all, I didn't even know about the machine. So you have to be in tune with your body, basically, in order for you to know that you're about to go into a seizure. What is that feeling like? Like,
it's hard because, like me, for myself, I've had convulsions in the past. Not many, but I've had, and I know my body. My trigger is lack of sleep mixed with high stress, which is me all the time on a regular basis now. But I actually can feel my trigger is I start seeing colored spots.
Oh, okay.
I'll start seeing colored spots like this, going around, and that'll tell me I have one that's coming. It may not come at that moment, but it may come, a week or two later. But at least I know, okay, I gotta get some sleep. I gotta just rest. I gotta, do something. Any signs that he notices himself?
Mm-hmm.
The signs that are there are more of what I notice, and the people involved with him will notice. So with him, it's more his mood, not his mood, but it's kind of like he becomes like a 7-year-old again. He's very happy and playful. And my son is 18. So once he starts getting, and you can see it in his eyes when one is going to be coming.
Wow.
He doesn't actually himself feel any symptoms. But when he does feel it, it's already too late. He doesn't have enough time to say, I'm going to have one. It'll come. He'll get that feeling right before it hits.
Wow. This is when I heard the story, what you was telling us on Wednesday, I was just like, wow, I need you to come on because I need you to break that down for us due to the fact that you never know who. Is it an age group? Like, do it happen when you're young? Can you still go through it when you're older? What, like, talk to us about that.
I just spoke with a gentleman. It can happen at any age, first of all, to answer your question. Because the causes of epilepsy are it's a variety of causes. If you have brain injury or any kind of trauma to the head, and that's with any age, epilepsy can, you can develop epilepsy. You have other situations where people don't get the symptoms or the signs, at least the ones that are noticeable, until later on. So you could have it the whole time and you just didn't know. Like I said, many of our kids are misdiagnosed with delays and behavioral disorders that are really neurological. I have a woman where a director for a youth program that I was supposed to do an event in the program at the school in March when COVID hit. The week that COVID hit was the event. So of course the school's closed. We had to reschedule it, which obviously never happened. But her son has ADHD and she never heard about epilepsy. So mind you, this is March of last year. So every time we met before the event was scheduled to go over things, I was teaching her a lot about it. She never knew about it. Lord and behold, in December that just passed, she reached out to me crying, thanking me for coming into her life, that, God works in mysterious ways, because sons, and he was diagnosed with epilepsy.
Wow.
Never had ADHD.
Wow.
Which is why, if you look at my pattern, I've been pushing ever since December, because at one point I was kind of not really doing much with it. COVID had my hands tied with a lot of things that I wanted to do.
Most of us.
And I was dealing with my own situation. It's very hard, doing something. People don't realize that even though we're out there and we're doing something good with a bad situation, it's not easy.
Absolutely.
I get my days where I feel helpless. I feel like, he can't have the life that he wants. I can't have the life that I want. Because when you're dealing with a sick child, it affects your life. It affects how you move. It affects, there's a lot of things that I haven't been able to do music-wise that I've wanted to do, because I always have to worry about, what's happening at home with him. I don't want to walk in and find him on the floor and nobody was there.
Right.
I'm very blessed to have the support that I have. My son is 18 and he's 245 pounds and he's 6 feet tall.
Wow.
So just to let you know that when someone has a convulsion, it's triple the weight. What their body goes through It's like their weight is triple and it's dead weight, but their muscles lock. So physically handling him for myself, I'm 5'5". I won't say my weight, but I'm way smaller than my son.
Right.
So I have to literally, like, if I'm by myself with him, it's a huge risk on myself because
Right.
I can't handle him the way he needs to be handled, and usually I have to have, Jamal, who's like his stepfather, he's constantly going through changes just to make sure he's here, to make sure he's okay, because it has to be a man present to deal with him. I've had situations where I was alone with him, and that is even more depressing for me because I'm his mom. I'm supposed to be able to handle my child in a medical emergency without, feeling helpless.
Right. Absolutely. Wow.
So it's very hard.
Absolutely. I just want to take a quick pause because we did put up your, what is it? Is it a GoFundMe?
No, it's is it GoFundMe? No, it's you mean the fundraiser page? I don't think that's GoFundMe, is it?
Okay, so
No.
let's talk about your
This is my first
fundraiser.
time doing one. Yeah.
Oh, I see it. It's fundraisers on Facebook. So we
set
put
up
that up.
a page through Facebook where people could donate directly through there.
Okay. Can you put that up again, Mr. Ali, the God I be? We want people to know that they can donate for, as you said, is really not a cure. However, it is other things that needs to be done. We need to go out there and educate. We need to make sure that the proper medication is given. You just mentioned that he's on a machine, pretty much on a machine. We talk about that. It's so many other factors and just getting the information out, period, is very, very helpful because, like she mentioned, Ms. Tyrell had mentioned, it is no age group. There's no age limit. You could be young and catch it. She just said 7 years old. He's now 18. And this is something that he's going to be dealing with for the rest of his life and mom. So is it a passed down generational type of what is it, a disorder, disease? What is this? So we could properly go ahead.
It's a medical disease. It's a disease. If you look at the history of epilepsy, before medicine was as advanced as it is now, epilepsy didn't exist in the medical field. What epilepsy and seizures were looked at, actually epilepsy, the term epilepsy didn't even exist. It was just seizures.
Seizures, right.
But back in the days, it was looked at in the world of the spiritual world as possession of the devil. And then in the world of psychology, as that advanced in its studies, it started being looked at as schizophrenia or fits, so to speak. I don't know if you ever heard that term, but fits.
Okay.
Like someone's just having a temper tantrum and flipping out. It wasn't, to be honest with you, and I don't have the exact year in front of me, but it wasn't that long ago.
You could take it down now.
When epilepsy was actually recognized as a medical disease, as a disease. It's one of the illnesses that you cannot cure. If you have epilepsy, it's pretty much, can it be managed? Right. You have people that have epilepsy that have been seizure free for a couple of years, maybe more, and their seizures will come back.
Wow.
Which makes me think about the cases where you've had people who are driving.
Frozen up.
Yeah, she froze up.
If you're seizure free for a year, you can get behind the wheel. You can have your license. What doesn't make sense to me is if your seizures come back, which they can and they will, how can you even, that's a very touchy subject, but I'm just thinking about my son, because obviously the minute he turned 18, he said, I want to drive. I said, you can't drive. Are you crazy? You can't drive. Well, what's the law? How long do I have to be seizure free? I said, first of all, you're not seizure free. And second of all, even there's something called legal law and there's something called mom's law. Even if you haven't had a seizure in a year, it doesn't mean that I'm going to support you getting behind the wheel, because seizures come back. And a year, I'm looking at it like this. If he's had close to 500 seizures in 4 years, how is a year of no seizures going to prove that he's safe enough to get behind the wheel?
Absolutely.
That's his life, and that's someone else's life.
Absolutely. You're
So,
absolutely right. Wow.
Unfortunately, the laws haven't caught up with the reality of epilepsy. My convulsions, like I said, I haven't had many. So yeah, that would make sense if I was seizure free for a year, because normally I don't have a seizure in a year. But for someone who has constant convulsions, and everything that I'm doing with Seize the Cure has been me learning it, and no one told me. No one told me that when he was diagnosed with epilepsy, it was the absent seizures. You know, they wanted to label him in school. And I said, nope, he's going to a neurologist. You know, if the neurologist clears him, then we'll look at other situations, but we're taking him. The neurologist saw it automatically in the testing. No one told me that his seizures could turn to convulsions. And when his seizures turned to convulsions, no one told me the safety measures that I would have to take in my house. For example, my bathroom door was always, you had to push it in. I live in an apartment in the Bronx. We know the bathrooms are beyond small. So my son has had seizures in the bathroom. And he's blocked the door. Where
he's big.
And Jamal had to literally break the door to get in there to get him. He was blocking it. He's 6 feet tall, 240 pounds. So I had to fight with management to reverse the door and pulling it out.
That makes sense.
I shouldn't have had to have that fight. He has a documented disability.
True.
The bathtubs. He's here in the bathtub one time and he fell completely forward into the knobs. They went all in his stomach. He still has carpet and rugs in the house to protect his head when he falls. It doesn't always work, but you know, there's certain things that I'm making a brochure for Seize the Cure on safety measures to take in your house.
Absolutely.
That's what I wanted to ask you. Because I remember growing up and people used to have seizures.
You sound low.
Can you hear me?
You sound low.
I remember. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I remember growing up and people used to have seizures, and you hear all of these different tactics people say, like some people say hold the person's tongue, and some people say put a coin on their tongue, or you hear all of these crazy things. What exactly do you do if somebody in your circumference is having a seizure?
The only thing that you can possibly do, first of all, I've heard that before with putting a spoon in the mouth. The coin. First of all, the worst thing you can do is put something in anyone's mouth that's having a seizure.
Because they can bite you too.
Because the force of their jaw as they're seizing can break off anything you put in their mouth, and it will fall, and they'll choke on it. And when they're seizing, there's so much saliva that makes it even easier for it to go down the throat. The only thing that you can do for someone who's having a convulsion is be by their side and have them as safe as possible. Remove anything that's around them that can possibly hurt their head or their body, depending where they fall. With my son, there's times that there's nothing around him, but it's furniture. I can't go moving the furniture. What I do is I hold his head so that way it's on me and he doesn't hit it on the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
Depending when you catch the seizure is how fast you move with it. You don't put a pillow under their head because someone has thought that also. No, you're supposed to lay them or try to move them to their left side.
Mm-hmm.
Reason for that is because of the heart. It's the left side. You're supposed to, it's something to do with the vitals, with the heart. And they always said, put him on the left side. If I'm alone, I can't move him. So I just make sure that I swipe his mouth for whatever foam is blocking him from coming out, because there's times that, you know, that stuff doesn't come out the mouth and then that he could choke on.
You choke on, right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I have to swipe his mouth, try to turn him to the left side as much as possible, or any side. The point is the tongue, you want the tongue to fall out the mouth.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Your tongue is attached to you. That's another thing that people thought was the reason. You can't choke on your tongue, but if the tongue is not falling out the mouth, it blocks all that saliva and vomit. Many people vomit during seizures. It blocks it from coming out.
Wow.
So yeah, you don't put nothing at the mouth. You make sure that everything is clear away from the person, and you time the seizure.
Okay. The next question I wanted to ask you is, what medications does a person have to take that has this condition?
There's so many medications for seizure, epilepsy. There's no way to tell which one is going to work because every case is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the common one that they usually start with, especially if you have convulsions, this I can tell you is Depakote, which also treats other psychiatric conditions.
That's right.
And this is where it gets very tricky. The conversation, I was listening to your show before I came on, and it's really interesting how the medical field has so much advances in treatment, but medications for certain conditions, you know, you're getting into more side effects that are unbearable or life-changing. Seizure medication has so many different side effects that are psychiatric related.
Wow. Wow.
It's very common for someone with epilepsy to have a mental disorder or emotional disorder. If they didn't have it from the epilepsy, they have it from the medication.
Last but not least, the last question to ask you was about alternative therapies, and I think I seen a documentary on CBD having an effect on epilepsy. I just wanted to know your views, and have you experimented with those options?
I'm glad you asked that, because this is a reason why I'm doing this fundraiser. One of the reasons, should I say. My son has been on a number of medications. He was seeing a neurologist, and the neurologist that he was seeing, I thought he was fantastic. But then what he told me was that once a person with epilepsy, their seizures have reached a certain point, they have to refer the patient to an epileptologist. So my son's case is so severe, he can't see a regular neurologist. I have been hearing about CBD oil for a very long time. I didn't know enough about it. And when people brought it to my attention, I was very depressed and helpless. So it was like I wasn't really hearing anyone. It was like,
right,
you're not dealing with this. Don't give me no advice, because the doctors can't figure this out. You don't know what you're talking. And I wouldn't say that directly, but that's what I would be thinking, you know?
Right.
And when I did my research on CBD oil, every oil has its target. So I didn't know which one would have helped. I didn't know how to go about it. And I went to my son's doctor, which is the prior hospital that he's not in now. I changed the hospital. And the doctor tells me, well, I don't think that's going to work for him. And I said, why? She says, well, you know, it hasn't been proven to be effective, even though research says otherwise. It hasn't been proven to be effective. And, it's very expensive. So my natural reaction was what? So because I'm a Latina, I can't afford, I'm not going to sacrifice what I need for my son to help him. Why would you worry about my financial situation? That's
Right.
not your concern.
Right.
I ended up changing because, unfortunately, just to backtrack, and this all coincides to the question that you asked, my son had close to 500 convulsions, and the neurologist kept telling me she wanted me to record a convulsion because she wasn't sure if the convulsions that he was having were really seizures, or maybe there's a particular seizure that they have. They diagnose you when they can't see an actual seizure. They'll say it's a psychiatric episode.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I said, I know what a seizure looks like. Okay, he's having seizures. She didn't believe me, but she constantly had him come in for video EEGs. So she wanted to schedule another one. And I said, listen, before he comes in here and you're getting paid top dollar for him sitting in this hospital with machines on his head, for you to tell me that you see the same thing on the EEG, if he's coming in here, we're going to make him have a seizure. And she says, excuse me. I said, I'm not going to record him having a seizure. You want to see a seizure? We're going to put him in the hospital, and we're going to put an exercise machine in the room. He's going to lose sleep because I'm going to have him on his electronics the whole time. These are his triggers: getting overheated, not sleeping, and being on the phone or the iPad or whatever electronic that he desires. Tell me within 3 days of him being in the hospital, he had a seizure.
Wow.
For her to tell me, yes, it is epilepsy, he did have an actual seizure. So at that point, I transferred him. I took him to another doctor, a new doctor, and God was on my side because she recommended CBD oil.
Mm.
So he's been on CBD 6 months, and this doctor has been elevating, raising the dosage throughout the 6 months. It's the one that he's on is called Epidiolex, and it's actually FDA approved. So she wrote the prescription, so the insurance covered it, and he's been on it for 6 months, and he's on 6 mLs twice a day. Now, his seizures have not stopped. As a matter of fact, Shanice, if you remember when we were discussing that particular day, he had 2 seizures in one day, which has never happened.
Wow.
The one thing I could say is that the Epidiolex has kind of spread out his seizures more. So rather than him have every week, he's going 2 or 3 weeks to a month having seizures. Any little bit with this kind of condition is a blessing. I'm starting a Seize the Cure radio show to give light to those who suffer from epilepsy. It's starting at the end of May. I just recorded my first show, and the gentleman that I interviewed, his seizure started after an accident at work. Well, maybe 5 years ago. He's about 40 years old. He has close to 25 seizures a day.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I
think
I want to definitely, excuse me for cutting you off, but I want to say thank you, because listen, we don't even know how serious certain illnesses are, until we hear it from the actual people who are actually going through it, or as yourself, as a parent who has a child who go through it on a regular basis. And I remember my mom saved someone with who had a seizure, and that was one of the things. I think we was in a public assistance place, and somebody had it and had a seizure, and my mom took a card and put it in the person's mouth. So now I'm hearing that's not the right thing to do, because the person can actually swallow it. Wow. You by me listening to you, it just brought me back to that scene that I remember as a child. My mom actually put the card in the person's mouth, and I think she moved them to the side, because before God, I be asked you that. That was going to be one of my questions coming up next. Wow. Um, ooh,
I
500. That's a lot.
and let me tell you something, a few things, which is why this is so crucial. First and foremost, disability denied him.
Mm? Mm.
That his condition doesn't warrant him to be on disability.
Wow.
Okay.
Why
Now,
is that? I'm
you
confused.
tell me. You can get disability for having a mental illness or for having back problems, but you can't. He has convulsions. I don't let him go on the train or buses by himself. He just got
Mm.
a job, his first job, which God bless the employer that I happened to work for them at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got sick, so I couldn't work. But they actually, the principal said, of course, he's a few blocks from the house. We know we'll give him his first job.
That's
He's
good.
doing part time and he's doing well. But that day that he had those two seizures, one of them was on his way to work for the first time
Mm.
outside by himself. And some people walked past him because they thought he was high on drugs.
There go the stigma. The stigma.
Now, my son is Haitian and Puerto Rican and Irish.
Excuse me.
He's dark. My son is dark skinned.
Uh-huh.
We're in the Bronx. So, my worry is his interaction with the cops. If the cops going to think that he's high on something or he's not going to get help because people are scared. They don't know. And on top of that, I just learned not too long ago that EMS is not trained in handling people with seizures. So there's so many things that I'm advocating for within Seize the Cure, and it's not just epilepsy awareness on the condition itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's more also on the advocacy for families who are newly diagnosed or don't have the support,
Right.
because there's a lot of things that having epilepsy that's not controlled, it's life-changing and life-threatening.
Yes. Wow. Yeah,
And
I
for me
really,
to do everything I want to do, with the
it's gonna take time.
program.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the point of this first fundraiser. Every event I've done, we never raised funds. It was all based on, who was willing to donate the venue or donate this or donate that. And I've been blessed to be able to do it. But now I'm at a point that I can't, it's like you don't live paycheck to paycheck. I can't run Seize the Cure on seeing what I can have at what point. I need to have everything available to me, all the resources, the giveaways, the advocacy materials, and being able to say, you know what, I want to have something here and I'm going to have to pay for it,
Right. Right. I definitely understand that. This is why, once again, I wanted to bring you on so we could have a discussion. And speaking of discussion and, having these type of conversations to bring the awareness, because that's what we're about. If anybody have any questions out there, because we will be closing up soon. I got to get back to my homework. And you too.
Yeah,
You
I don't
too.
start back to the 25th. I have a few days break they gave me.
Oh wow, good for you. I got a test that I gotta
Congrats
submit
though, I'm
today.
glad you're doing that.
Thank you. Same here. Same to you as well. If anybody have any questions on epilepsy, please feel free to call 347-450-6397.
What are you getting your PhD in?
Forensic psychology.
Oh wait, oh wait. So that's dealing with the criminal justice system and the psychology of people.
Yeah, I have to know the laws, so to speak, but it's more on
Mm,
the mental status of criminal behavior.
Mm, mm.
It's
mm,
so
okay.
interesting. It's that you could we could do a whole nother show on that one.
What made you get into it though? Like, what made you think about that? As
Ever since I was very young, I used to be obsessed with serial killers. Not that I wanted to be one,
Oh,
but
let's clear that up.
no, let's clear that up. I don't. But I was as young as 10 years old, and I was watching things on Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy, and my father embraced it. He was like, yeah, my mom she was like, oh no, that's poison. But come to find out, as I got older and started really evaluating the system and how, from small criminal behavior, when I say small, we know what that means, small to the real sadistic crimes and crimes based on mental illness. I said, I couldn't be a cop. I'm too old for that now. So I figured, you know what, I wouldn't mind going in and evaluating, cases and seeing, who's really fit and who's not, and trying to figure out where the behavior comes from.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's that it was funny, but I understood what you were saying. I'm sure he does too, because I was the reason why I went into substance abuse counselor is because I wanted to know why people use drugs. So I sound like we have a caller coming in.
Yes, we do. Call and
Okay.
state your name.
This is Mark Maxie. How are you?
Hey,
Good.
what's going with you?
Peace.
Well, I want to thank your guest for her advocacy on behalf of her son.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, they want you to be half dead before they decide to give you disability. My
Mm.
question is, how long was she fighting for disability before they tell her her son was not eligible?
Did you hear? Mhm.
Yeah, I applied. It may have been I'm trying to think, maybe 8 months ago,
Mhm.
and had to wait for the appointment. Of course, COVID restricted in-person appointments, so I went through the whole process, and it took them 6 weeks to tell me that they didn't approve it. Now I can appeal it or reapply. I
Mhm.
plan to. Um, my thing is, it, I haven't appealed it yet because I want my son. I wanted him to have the opportunity to feel what he can manage. Right now, he has a 4 hour a day job. They know the situation. They're aware of his seizures. They look out for him, and they make sure that he doesn't do any overworking in those 4 hours. I want my son to understand that he has to make a decision for himself in what he can and cannot handle. I didn't want it. I didn't want him. Number one, I didn't want him to blame his condition from trying.
Right.
So I said, you know what? If I could take all the measures to keep him safe and support him with having a part-time job, I didn't want to take that from him. Now, if it gets so bad that he starts having them at work, then obviously I'll have to go back and really, and now here's my proof. He had a job and it's triggering his condition. He cannot
Right.
work.
Mhm.
I understand. It took me 2 years. On the day of Shanice and the God's wedding, I nearly went into diabetic coma. And just 2 weeks ago, on May 1st, I finally get approved for disability.
Mm.
Um, I, I also want to say to the God, Ali, and Mrs. Denise Gatewood that I like to get one of the T-shirts that I saw on Facebook, and
Well.
I also, on behalf of Families United for Solutions, we have Youth Night, and we're still struggling to bring our young people to our Youth Night, which is on Tuesday. I
Mm-hmm.
am impressed by our young 7-year-old brother who writes a book.
Uh, Jay
Sister
Sean.
Philly has, yeah, to Sean. And
Mm-hmm.
I plan to author one of his books for my granddaughter. And
Uh,
so I would like to invite that young man in the near future to our youth night on Families United for Solutions, along with his mom, who I had
mhm.
the pleasure to
To
meet
me. Hmm.
because we had her as a guest speaker for
Yep.
our youth night
Hmm.
that we had in for our youth summit a few years ago.
Oh yeah, I
So
remember.
Okay.
I would like to invite them to be on our youth night.
Okay.
Also, I would like for our guest to bring her son as well, if it's possible, to talk about epilepsy on Families United for Solution Forum. I'm going to speak to Brother Hart about us making this happen behalf of our young people because
Absolutely.
as Sister Shanice say, it's about awareness and I appreciate her as a mother advocating for her son. So I would like to have those young people on our platform in the near future. And for you too, you are a power couple and I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate having you in my life. Thank
Oh,
you so much.
don't make me cry.
Love you, Unc, man. It's great hearing from you
Oh
as
man.
always. Oh, as always, we see you in the near future. All
Definitely.
right, peace.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, my son is actually starting to speak up for the first time.
Oh
You know,
yeah. Good. Okay.
he's asking me, "Well, when can I get an interview?" And you
What?
know, he's finally opened up to the, learning how to be an advocate and how important it is.
Hmm.
Um, and also, we do tabling at events. And what I do is
Yes.
I give out information, I give out giveaways. I try to, there's always, every time I've done it, there's always one person that knows what it is or needs the help.
Hmm. Okay. So we definitely want to pass you the information so that way you and your son can get on their show as well. Excuse me, and educate our the youth on Tuesday nights. So that would be amazing.
Right.
Um,
I
we
also,
have got. I'm sorry.
I also want to I'm planning. It's in the planning stages right now. I want to have a health fair at PS
Mm-hmm.
194. We started the County Cullen Community Coalition, so I'm pushing for us to have a health fair in the near future. The date, we don't have the date yet or anything, but I want to get a range of topics. I want to get a range of tables. I want to have people talking about all of the different things that affect our community. I think this is a crucial conversation because many times we're introduced to this without knowing what it is early in life. Because I remember
Right.
being in elementary school and it was classmates who had this condition, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we might tease or make jokes because we don't really know exactly what's going on. So it's
Right.
definitely important for us to bring this conversation to a younger audience and just everybody in general. So I think that that would be very fruitful if it came to the health fair as well.
Okay.
You have my full support with that.
Okay,
You
bet.
about to
Full
get busy.
support. You have my help with that. That's
Oh,
needed desperately.
must we also announce that you are what are you doing with us? Well, we are phenomenal woman.
I
Oh my
am
goodness. Yes.
working side by side, partnering, whatever word you want to call it that floats your boat. Working with, we are phenomenal women because we are,
That's right. We
and
are.
advocating for rape and sexual violence.
That's right. Absolutely. So, like we said, every Wednesday, well, excuse me, every 2 Wednesdays, we will be doing rape prevention on Zoom, but it's also on Facebook. And the first dialogue was just opening up, letting people know what is the different types of rape, because a lot of people did not know the different types as well as myself. So next week, this week coming in, we have another one. So please watch out for that and share the information, because that's what we're all about, sharing the information, bringing awareness on different issues and different topics. We can get the professionals, the experts to come out and speak on these things. We definitely want them to come out and do that. So, with that being said, I want to close up, and I want to thank you once again. You
Oh,
have
I
work
have.
to do.
Can I say one more thing that's
Sure.
really important?
Yes, ma'am.
Um, I don't know if you could post this on the website later. But with Seize the Cure,
Mm-hmm.
um, Ro made a song, which I was speaking about him before, called Complicated. And it's about having a child with epilepsy.
Oh, okay.
So,
Send that.
song, and we're doing it together. And it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be released in the next month or two. We'll
Okay.
put the date out. But the video, Too Complicated, has my son in it, myself, him, and my daughter. And the video shows what it is like to have epilepsy.
Oh shoot! If I would
So
have known that, I would have. We would have played
yeah,
it.
I didn't even I didn't even think about it. So and I didn't know that I could actually, because I see you doing the slideshow or the sharing
Mm-hmm.
the. So I'm gonna send it to you. It's on
Okay.
YouTube and it's called
Okay.
Complicated
Okay. Okay.
by ROW. That's where you would pull it up, and it's called Complicated, and it's the song, the visual to the song based on epilepsy.
Thank you. Okay. We definitely either we're gonna put it up, or we're gonna next our following Sunday we could play the video and say this is from
Okay,
last week's. Is that okay?
yeah, that's
Without
great.
ID?
I can send it to you, the direct link.
Okay. Please do.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're gonna close up because definitely got to do this test, and I want to thank you once again for enlightening us on the different types of epilepsy. What it mean? How is it a parent who child is going through it? We also talked about don't put a card or a spoon or anything like
Nothing.
that in a person's mouth. Nothing, as she mentioned. Wipe the saliva or the vomit from the mouth, because that can actually choke the individual who might be going through it. Put them on the left side, as she mentioned. Put them on the left side so that way their tongue could kind of like open up, right? As I just did.
Preferably the
Okay.
left, but if it's easier for the right, as long as that's the
Put them
most
on the
important
side.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's called
So
the rescue position.
Mhm.
okay. Then she also mentioned something that was really, 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 really helpful, which was position your household to help the person but not getting hurt. So a rug, or the bathroom situation. I never heard that one. That was really, really wow, informative. And it makes sense, right? Because for me, I have asthma. I could fall out. I remember years back that kind of happened to me, and nobody was there. So to switch the bathroom doors would be helpful for anybody. I think that's something that we should really, really put that out there. Um, and then you mentioned EMS do not have the training to help someone who is going through a seizure attack. So that's like, whoa, that something is not right with that one. I remember what I told you what we should do on that. What you
Neither
should
are
do
the
with that.
neither are the police. The police need to be trained in it too. Not
That's
everybody that falls
crazy.
to the ground shaking is high on drugs.
That's
Right.
true. And they mess around and give him a Norcan, one of those,
Right.
right?
Yeah, no, and
Wow.
and then how they handle the person could trigger a seizure. They have to know. This is what I'm trying to
The
do. This is why
mental,
I'm fundraising,
right.
because I need
Mm-hmm.
to get these programs where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Now, I was a part of a organization, which they still call me, but my schedule is so full now. I was actually going to with Carol. I forgot the name of her organization, but we talked about how the police should or
Harlem,
should not handle the mental health issue, huh?
Harlem Emergency Network.
No, the one
Oh,
downtown.
community access.
I think it is. So
Yeah.
what they was asking us, should somebody else like a peer specialist come out and deal with the mental health, issue, or police, because the first thing police do, you know, is kind of shoot the individual if they having a mental setback. I'm gonna say a mental setback, and they will shoot them and not even knowing what's going on. So,
Police
we vouch.
psychology is a growing field. It's become an
True.
interest. It's become a very big interest for me.
Right. That wow.
Whole
See?
world that
And you're about to get into this whole you in school going doing the right thing, So I
73% of the calls that police get are mental health crisis calls.
Mm.
that's
Wow.
73%. Not
That's
all the time gotta be
73%. I just took a huge course in police psychology,
mm,
and I'm doing my doctorate dissertation on it.
Mm.
mm,
Well,
you
we
can
need you to
have
come back. We need you to come back next week and check us out. We're gonna have Johnny Perez on.
right.
Johnny
Okay.
Perez, the other sister. They're gonna be talking about the whole solitary confinement movement next week. That law was passed, and they said it's no longer legal for them to have long-term solitary confinement in the prisons. And
Right.
that also speaks to the larger conversation where we had Shavonna Vaughn on, and she was talking about post-traumatic prison disorder. And I think that we should also even speak to a larger conversation about our post-traumatic slave syndrome that many of us are going through in this community and in this country, from all of these years and years of being discriminated against and abused. So,
Absolutely.
it's just it's just a big conversation of the different types of trauma that we are all going through and the way that the police are interacting with us and what
Right.
should be the laws going forward. So,
Absolutely. Wow.
Absolutely. It's
So
a lot. I mean,
it is a lot.
our police go through more stuff than I even imagine.
Hmm.
It's just that
Wow.
there's obviously big cases that kind of take away from the sentiment of the culture of police and how they're pretty much, as you call it, the slave syndrome. They're the slave syndrome to the government, and they're the ones interacting with us. And if their mental health
Mm,
isn't intact, how are they going to work with us as a society patrolling our streets? They're in our schools, they're in our hospitals.
everywhere.
The only way to fix the police brutality and police suicide, which is the highest suicide there is, just
Mm-hmm.
nobody
Mm,
talks about it.
mm-hmm.
But I actually have spoken with officers, and the amount of stuff they're victims to the system,
Mm,
and we end up paying the price for it.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
we definitely need you to come back.
yeah,
You,
we
you,
like
you.
that.
We need you to come back. We need you to come back and break that stuff down as well. Um, Queen, thank you so much.
Thank you for
I
having me.
was, yes, I see you Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Yep.
And
It's Wednesday
we're
or the
gonna
following Wednesday?
girl bye. I don't remember. I know it's on the 25th. I say the 25th. So it's the following
So, yeah, that's
Wednesday.
following Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
following Wednesday. I remember dates. Okay, it's the following Wednesday. So thank you, Queen, for coming on. We will see you soon. We're going to share the information what Brother Mark had mentioned, so that way you and your son could be a part of that as well with us. And we just want to continue on doing what we do, educate our people. So
That's
with
right.
that, I'll say peace with you, and we're gonna close out. So that was really, really good. Wow,
That was excellent. That was
that was
excellent.
really, really good.
Definitely
That
opened
was.
my eyes to a lot
Mm-hmm.
about
Mm-hmm.
epilepsy. And I remember, plenty of times I knew people that had epilepsy, and I really didn't know the parameters of it.
Right. Wow. That was really, really informative.
So
Definitely got to get her come back.
my stomach is calling me right now. I feel
I
like
know.
fasting, so
That's
I got to go in here and
that's
get me something to eat. Peanuts ain't gonna do it. We need some
Sorry,
food.
I've been
But
absolutely.
speaking
Well,
of my
next week,
the Ali's. Oh yeah, go ahead.
next week we got Johnny Perez coming on. So those who's listening, please tune in for next week. And then the following week, we're going to take a short break because this is my birthday weekend. Yes, I don't know if I should celebrate. I'm getting old.
Turn up.
So it's my birthday weekend. And then the following week, the whole month of June, we have some great people that's going to come on. We're not going to mention that just yet, but soon come. However, thank everybody for tuning in on, like my husband said, Speak Your Mind podcast with the Ali's. And we see everybody next week, Sunday, at what time?
1 p.m. Salute to my uncle, Mark Mafi. You already
Salute.
know, man. Thanks for always supporting. And for those who supported today, thank you for shouting us out. Nat Fisher Fellowman, Marissa Janelle, Jakisha Breland Kirkland, and Catherine Marrow, Janet
Sure.
Acevedo, Troy Yukon Malloy.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, Uncle Mark Mafi, man, salute. We out.
We out. Peace.
Peace.